All right. Hello, and welcome to another informative tutorial. Today I am going to go over multi-attacks, what they are, how to most effectively use them, scenarios that they are most useful, stuff like that. So, multi-attacks are generally used for two purposes. One is more of like a spam attack on an enemy's base, and this is to maybe disorient them, try to get a few um, attacks that land. It's also like a high risk, high reward strategy. So you're generally, if it's an active player and they're decent at the game, you're going to get walled like 50% of the time. Like sending a multi-attack, like 50% of your attacks, let's say you can send 10 max, five of them are likely to get walled. So it's like, it is useful because you can set up like five different points within their base to attack from. And then from there, you can do like single attacks and try to set up different areas to attack. And that way you can do full attacks from those points and losing less troops. But we'll go over that. So, multi attacks. It's basically sending from a single point. And also, I want to preface this by saying, I'm sorry, like in my videos, I'm not actually giving you like an active demonstration of what I'm describing, because I simply just don't want to lose all the troops like going through the process of demonstrating like multi-attacks and all the long bridges and stuff, putting myself at disadvantage. So hopefully just doing it by more of a demonstrational standpoint, it's still understandable. So multi-attacks. The two uses that I see that are most common are for hitting someone that is at 0% experience to you and attacking an enemy that you want to disorient. So, of course, the 0% experience, let's say this guy is at 0%, he isn't, but so I'd have to be like 9 mil KP, and he'd be at 3, so that's a third. I'm attacking from here, and if I take like one or two of his cities, he's going to drop from that 0% experience to demo range, which is under 30% my KP, and I will not be able to attack him. All my attacks will look like this, where it only lets me send the base amount, where I need like 160% striker and almost no troops in the city to actually overcome just the base walls. So I don't want to deal with that. It takes a lot of time. My speed isn't high enough to send out a lot of demo attacks. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'll send a mass attack from this point. He is lower level, not by much, so he could still wall a couple of them. But either way, I'll just assume I'm a stronger opponent. So I send from this point. And what you want to do with these is send it from a farther point because it's likely that one of these attacks that land first up at these first four are going to be the attack that sends them under your demo range. And so you don't want those attacks to land first so that you can't do any more attacks. Because these first attacks only, take like, well, I guess if it was an actual attack, it would take like, 20, 30 seconds. So you don't have much time. So, of course, if you're on a computer, I think it's a bit quicker, but I'm on an iPad, so, or at least currently. So, you send from a farther point, see like maybe 10 cities you want to take, and then you just spam attack. So you start like here maybe or here. And so you just send it there, then there, then there, then there, then there, and just like slowly take them. And what's nice about this is that when you do first send an attack, you can taper it if assuming they're like close to the same level cities. You can taper it down like every send is a 10% decrease. So if you do want to like spread it out into the 10 attacks, it makes it a bit easier, which is a nice aspect. So start out, then you work your way in, and then once your first attack lands, you want to immediately send the next one to a following city, because then you might be able to get one extra. So that's good for low KP players. Now, if you want to actually use the multi-attack strategy to disorient a more equally strong player as yourself, I don't know if I'd recommend it, but a lot of people like to use this strategy, especially in lower leagues. Um, Used to be used at the end of a season, but with the new bubble update, then that is not a good strategy anymore. So basically, you would, let's say you start at this point. Now I want to note that if you're multi-attacking a person that is weaker than you and obviously has less troops than you, then you want to time your attacks so that they all land around the same time. But if it is someone that is as strong as you are, you don't want them to land at the same time. Now, the reasoning behind this is if the person is weaker than you, then they have less troops to spread out than you do. So if you spread out your attacks, if you spread out your attacks, then you can spread out, like, let's say it takes like 400 mil, I think that's about right. Yeah, with like a 200% striker, it'd take like 400 mil for each city here. So, and this is, of course, you're gonna have like a high loss ratio, so it's gonna be like 60% loss when you're just taking like exactly what it needs to take the city. So that's why this is a high risk strategy. But you want to take like 400 mil, but because they have less troops, you can, let's say you have 4Gs, you can send 10 attacks of 400 mil, but they can't spread out enough to wall those attacks as efficiently because they have less troops. Let's say they have 2Gs, so that they'd only be able to get, and assuming that they actually have um, the speed to even get there in time, they'd only be able to put like 200 mil in each city. So you're not going to be able to, or they won't be able to wall as efficiently if you have more troops. So that's why you want them to all land at the same time. Because if you start from this point and you're going in and you don't taper them off, so that instead you just send one attack here and then here, 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 like a lot of people do, then they'll simply move their troops and they'll put them here. And then once that attack lands, they'll move them here, 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 here. And so it completely counteracts um, the multi-attack. Like it makes it pretty much useless. You're basically just feeding them a golden experience. So if they have less troops, make sure your attacks land at the same time. So you send your first attack here, let's say, and you see that it's 45 seconds. Well, realistically, it'd be a larger attack, so it'd be like 3 minutes or something. So send it here. Let's say it's 3 minutes. So then this one will probably be closely after. But then these two are going to be like 20 seconds after, so that they all land at like, let's say 2:30 or something. So then that one and that one. And then once those go down, then you land it there. Then once those get down to like 1 minute, then you land it. Then you send out attack there. And so then they all land at the same time. They don't have as much time to react and get to those positions. So another thing that I would suggest if you are multi-attacking, just in general, multi-attack doesn't matter if they're stronger or weaker player, in terms of troops at least, then I would suggest sending multi-attack first, like send maybe two of them to the very end of their base or close to it. So that way they have less time. Like, and then of course you're gonna have to wait like 2 minutes before sending them to here and here. So they go to reinforce those cities, these two down here, let's say. And then after 2 minutes, their troops are already headed on their way there. They might even send their whole stack there. And so it's even easier or works out more efficiently. So then you send your troops to here. Now they already have their troops on the way, or maybe they're there already, but you're having them land at the same time. So they're going to keep troops there, and then they're going to push them here after, but they're not going to get there in time, most likely. And so you're going to be able to take a couple of these cities here. So that's one thing that I would suggest. Another thing that would be useful is instead of simply sending out the same amount for every city, I would suggest sending more. So in general, with a multi-attack, you want it less. So like, although these are 92s, they have 1.12 Gs of base wall defense. Then you're probably going to be, if you're going to multi-attack, you're probably going to be sending under a G. First of all, because you don't have enough troops to send a G to every one of these cities, assumedly. And because you don't have, and because you want them to be quicker attacks. So, of course, 100 mil to G is the most efficient way for a multi-attack for these types of cities. So, I would suggest, especially on the first two that you send out that are further out, likely to be walled because of the time that you give them to wall them, you want to send just above 100 mil if you can, like 120, whatever. And then maybe send 120 here, but then send 900 mil here. Then maybe send, you know, well, maybe not 120, but, maybe send like 400 mil here, just enough to take it, but then send 900, like 80 mil here. So that even if they do wall it, but they wall it with a smaller amount, because they see that, these were sent and only were a certain amount, and they split their troops and they're like, okay, I only need like 200 mil to block him in this city. You're sending 900 mil, 980 mil, whatever, in select cities, so that those have a higher chance of actually landing. So you don't want to split all your troops up multi-attack at all the same value. You want to still be able to take the city in general. You can send a few that are just like 100 mil because you know they'll get walled, but you don't want to send more to take the city in some of them, but then in some you want to send way more than you need to take the city. In that way, you can have uh, a higher chance of actually the attack landing. And even if they try to wall it, then they're not going to be able to. And then, if all goes well, you'll have a couple cities throughout their base that actually landed. And from there, you can move your stack in to the center of their base and then move throughout their base. So let's say I multi-scouted from here. There's no troops in the area, so I'll attack this city. I'm not going to multi-attack once my first multi-attack lands, because I'm just going to be losing way too much. So I send it from that point. Then I'll multi-scout again. And if they've moved troops there, then I'll boost my troops over here. And I'll scout. And let's say they don't have troops here, so I'll attack this city. And then I'll just keep doing that throughout the, let's say, 4 cities I have that my multi-attack was able to take. And that way I'll just slowly chip down on them. Because once the first multi-attack lands, if you're sending multiple multi-attacks, it's just you're losing way too many troops. It's not really worth it. So hopefully that covered everything. I think it covered most of what I wanted to say. So if you have any advice on what to cover next, I will go over how to defend multi-attacks in my next video, I believe. But besides that, if you want to have anything covered, or you found any errors in my current video that need to be addressed, let me know. Otherwise, leave a like. Hopefully this was informative. Thank you for watching.